Hey, Soheil, how are you doing?
Hey, Hirad. I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
Good, pretty good. Welcome to the pod. So, can you share me your journey so far, like as a maker? Like, give the audience some background about yourself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm a software engineer based in Vancouver, Canada. I have lived in Canada since 2012. Born and raised in Iran, otherwise, and came to Vancouver to do my master's program, UBC, and shortly after my master's program, I started my tech career by starting in software development. Worked at um, local tech Vancouver startups, Cymax, then Banatag, and later on Staffbase, which acquired Banatag. And I grew kind of like as a software engineer to some kind of tech lead and then director of engineering, director of technology. And as of 2021, I decided to kind of embark on an entrepreneurship journey. And yeah, and since then, I've been building and growing software products.
Oh, cool. Um, I do, I do. Later on, I'll talk about each of these projects that you've worked on, like creative flow and all of that. Um, so so can you tell me about like when did you start
Right.
like actually going like taking this entrepreneurship journey and just starting to build products for yourself. So like what was the first one? How did you come up with the idea?
Well, that's a good question. So I guess like the first one that I actively seeked paying users was after I finished kind of like my full-time career and like started, like full on kind of went all in and just quit my job and started doing this. Um, like it's not a path that a lot of people take. It's like it's very risky. Um, but before that, during my time at Banatech, for example, I built a newsletter designer tool, which was my side project. I was just like playing around and build it out, like into something that became, like the flagship product of the company. People started recognizing this company by that software. And it's also helped me kind of, like growing to kind of an executive role, like the management team wants to kind of, like spread that, innovation across, like the department. So kind of gave me a bit of more, like um, freedom and flexibility while, like just doing, like some of the things that I like. But I guess, like the real journey really started, in 2021 when I kind of like, just said, hey, I want to do my own thing. So I kind of like just towards the end of 2021, I decided to kind of like, just leave kind of a very good high paying job just to kind of like start, from zero. And just basically, yeah, I had savings and I had, like, I thought, okay, like, let me just try this out for a year or two and see what happens.
Mhm. Oh, on a small tangent, like what are your thoughts on like for people who want to start their own thing? Some people are like, I can keep this new thing as my side hustle and like keep my regular 9 to 5. But some do as you have done, which is to just go all in and just quit the job. Do you have any insights on that?
There's obviously the risk, right? So like if you have like just like a family, if you have, like fixed costs and everything, so it's like it's something you have to assess on, like on a per situation basis, like it's hard to just like, say this fits all. But for example, I think Copy AI, which now kind of grew quite large now, they started, I think they were part time until $1,000 MRR, and then they are kind of like just left their job and did it full time. I can see, like what makes sense for you. If like I've actually like talked to a lot of people, in fan companies, they have like huge RSUs and they have like 10-year runway, like, yeah, so And if you have, like a good, like a kind of a career, like in the past, the people can always take you back, so I guess like taking a year off, is not really going to hurt that much. So it's kind of per case basis. So it's hard to just say do this for everybody. So you have to look at your own, like personal situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. So you've sold a bunch of apps and products. Can you walk me through, first of all, like how many have you sold, and like is it possible for you to give us some price range? And also like what was the process? Yeah.
So when you're talking about selling, you mean like kind of acquisition of
Yeah,
this,
yeah, yeah.
right? So, okay. So actually, like when I first started this, the first year that I did like kind of entrepreneurship, I wouldn't call it a successful year. It was actually pretty, pretty rough. I built things, like, and it didn't work out, and it's kind of, like a reality check that you would get, as it's not that easy to build, products that people will buy, I built, like an SQL analytics tool that was like running offline, um, I had, few people, like using it, like, but I was having a hard time, find paying customers. And I actually like sold that one on a platform called, are you there? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, on a platform called Microacquire, which later rebranded into acquire.com. And it was mostly the code base. It was a very like small acquisition, it was very small. And then later on, I did this kind of business hackathon called Build Sell 30, which I think people from Microacquire had like kind of some partnership with the kind of organizers of that business hackathon. And the idea was that for you to learn how to do sales and marketing, you would not only build the product, but also try to reach $100 MRR, which is reasonable for like a 30 days. And then you list it on this marketplace and try to sell it, which is like $100 MRR would be like whatever it is, like $1,000, $2,000, something like ARR. And back then, the multiples were like between 10 to 15. So it was not bad for like, just 30 days. But doing this actually like taught me a lot of things, like this Build Sell 30 was fantastic because first of all, I realized I was doing a lot of things wrong, like building product. And you don't need, like a AWS organization and just, multiple environment of development, staging and productions and Terraform and all that stuff. You need to build something that people want. And as developers, it means that, just choosing, like a lot of your infrastructure from off-the-shelf solutions, just focus on only the thing that people would have paid for, not the rest. The rest is already, like people actually don't care about that. So I think that was kind of pretty transformative, like doing that, like a business hackathon. And afterwards, I did a few other things too, like very, like small projects here and there until kind of like I kind of started Creative Flow, which is something you actually like were asking about earlier on, which I can actually talk about that unless you want to touch
Yeah,
on it.
yeah, sure. Sure.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so actually through this Build and Sell 30 journey, the organizer of that told me, hey, like you should meet this other guy, like you're both builders and maybe you can actually like work on something. And back then, like I had this kind of like spreadsheet of ideas of what I want to work on. And then, like I met with this guy and he had also a spreadsheet. So we actually shortlisted a couple of ideas, which I think actually both of them were pretty good, honestly. I think, if we didn't do the first one, the second one would have worked too. But the idea was actually like to build kind of an animation engine on top of Figma. So right now, Figma has kind of like a prototyping tool. People use it for their design and to make it interactive. But a lot of people are also using it for marketing, which is kind of, like using tool was not designed for marketing, for marketing. So they were asking, can we have like just high FPS, like kind of production grade, like animations that we can use for advertising. And it was kind of like, just this request was sitting on Figma's, like idea board for such a long time. And then every, months people were kind of, like upvoting that, please Figma, can you do this? Please Figma, can you do this? So we started basically doing kind of like, just like a week-long hackathon to see if it's even technically possible, because the Figma plugin ecosystem is quite limited. So kind of, like you don't have access to kind of, like underlying, like data that much. So there's this kind of like post message webhook that you can actually request some data and you get some back. So it's pretty slow and like pretty clunky. And it doesn't even run on V8 engine. It runs on Quick.js, which is like a very kind of like, just like a tight sandbox. So we did it one week long hackathon, and it worked out. Like you could build, like a GIF from, like a design in Figma, which was pretty fantastic. So posted it online, and all of a sudden, like we saw, okay, wow, a lot of people are, like liking it, retweeting it. Yes, somebody did it finally. And we thought, okay, wow, this is great. And at that point, we thought, okay, now it's good. Let's focus on this other idea, or just, like see what people want to do. But we thought, what if we asked people to maybe pay something and just, like try it out, look for some money, or give whatever you want, like as you wish, like give us some like money. So basically we put it on Gumroad and just didn't put a price on it, and just like asked people pay whatever you want. So when we saw people were actually like paying us money just to kind of download this thing, and it was like $10, $20, $50. So it was coming in. We thought, okay, maybe we're up to something. So I started, thinking, okay, let's go full time on this and just see what happens. And this was the point, I think it was late 2022 that started working on this full time. And it was, like a lot of work, like for the first, like 4 months, 5 months, it was a lot of work. But yeah, basically I would say, like every waking hours, we were kind of coding to kind of, basically catch up, with the kind of Figma is a very mature software, and there's so many edge cases, so many features you need to build for this to be, like even remotely useful. So we did that. And then, like I think it was January 1st, or yeah, the first week of January, that we had, like the kind of monthly recurring, revenue on Stripe, which is kind of a big deal. If you ask any indie hacker, people think that, like revenue is an easy thing to kind of just, make money online, but it's not, like people rarely pay for something, let alone pay something on a recurring basis, like,
Mhm.
so asking people to pay us some money was like a big moment. It was like a moment of celebration. It was fantastic. And it really pushed us, like also in the beginning, it was like, just like growing up. And we were just, like working hard. And until we kind of like, just hit a bit of a plateau, it was kind of like, um, I think we hit something like 4K or 5K MRR. And we kind of like, just like started, like stagnating at that point. And there was a point of, like, um, I guess, like a lot of it is actually like a learning journey, when you do things, when you do startups. And one of the like kind of mistakes that, like I did personally is that, like when you start working, especially as a team, you need to have a very clear idea of, your roles and your responsibilities and the agreement that you have, together, and how you're going to like basically divide it as, like, because after a while, you're going to start kind of running into issues, and you need to figure out, okay, who's in charge of what and how we're going to deal with things, And it was kind of like my mistake that I didn't kind of like, consider that. And we were having, this recurrent, like a thing that came up, okay, what is our agreement? Like we didn't even form an entity for the company by May, like 6 months afterwards. So we're using, like my friends, like corporate entity that he had. So, and it was kind of like a point of, like, not good. So we actually, like, from experience, I would say, if I go back, I would have pushed for, more structure in the beginning. And especially since there's a bit of, like overlap, like both of us were a bit technical. But anyways, that was, in hindsight, like, it's a lesson, but it's something that, like I still strongly think that, like having, people to work with is a privilege. You can actually definitely like learn a lot from, and the dynamics will bring a lot of interesting aspects to you, but you have to like basically do it right, like do it right with a good structure, and basically do it on the right point. So when we stagnated at that level, 4 or 5K, I think MRR, this was around the time that we had some kind of, like, what do you call it? User base. And we thought, okay, do we want to raise money? Do we want to increase pricing? What are we going to do? So luckily for us, we got accepted into IRA program, which allowed us to hire people. We got just like a very good engineer on board. And I really pushed for kind of pricing update just to see, like if we can capture, like more enterprise users. And that was kind of successful, even though it was a lot of friction to kind of just imagine you're going, like 3 times, 4 times the price that you initially, like posted. And you kind of fear of, like, what if you lose your current customer base? But then I thought, like if I cannot do this full time, this could actually like be a product that I need to shut down, so might as well, see if I can actually like basically make this something that can work for, years to come. So both of them were great. And yeah, we hit, like a 10K MRR actually shortly after we raised our prices, which is a pretty significant milestone for any company, because once you hit 10K MRR, it means that, you're kind of like, this is actually good business. Before that is kind of, like, you don't know, it could be, something, it could be not, you might not be able to go full time with it or not. But at that point you realize, okay, there's something, like you can actually like think about maybe, like doing more stuff with it. And yeah, so this was kind of like towards the end of 2022, maybe, that we hit that. And yeah, like unfortunately, like basically, like the person I was working with, we had to part ways because of all the problems that I mentioned earlier. We could not navigate them. Finally, actually, like it was like one of the straws that broke the camel's back, like. And in hindsight, like as I go back, I would try to kind of like bring more structure into kind of like just an agreement when I work with people. And that actually was not the biggest issue I faced. The 2023 beginning was very, very challenging. So I had to basically I had to pay out like the equity of the partner I was with, in order to kind of like for the business to be able to continue. And this was money that I had to basically refinance, like my mortgage and borrow money to do that. It was a bit, like it was a bit harsh, because also the kind of, the interest rates were pretty high at that point. So there were like the loans were kind of like just quite large that I had to pay back. And there was this huge bill from the lawyer that I didn't expect, like it was like 25,000 to pay to kind of, like to lawyer, like, just big legal companies, they also cost a lot of money. And there was this, there was that. And IRAP all of a sudden said they cannot really continue, like giving us more money. So, like there were problems from here, from problems from there, So I started, kind of going into this mode. Okay, and we need to save, like cut costs. We need to basically do this really well. So one of the lifelines we had was a SHRED program, which was kind of like just a research and development kind of like grant that the government offers to companies, which is pretty fantastic. But when I talked to a company called Bose, which does, like SHRED filing, they kind of told us, like the size of our SHRED was too small for this to be, feasible. So they were not going to do that. And January, I started reading all the kind of government docs and started learning how to do that. I was on call with CRA for, like advisor for like, just like 6 hours at a time to kind of understand how to do SHRED. And I was able to actually like file the SHRED with our tax filing too, which saved us quite a bit. Actually, we were able to recover some money. We were able to pay, like some of, like the fees that we had, which is pretty good. I actually can offer, like a SHRED consulting to any company that's startup that they might need something like this. But yeah, and like we did some cost saving, which was kind of like a little bit harsh, but was necessary. For example, we had this beautiful office, but decided, okay, like this doesn't work out, or like had to let go of, like some people that we, like worked with. But all in all was, like the idea was try to kind of keep this, product, alive, keep this, like in the hand of customers, and try to basically make this something that, like people can use and people can continue to kind of grow. There was kind of like, just some ideas about, how can this product be extended later on. But I never really wanted to diversify into multiple products. I really wanted to kind of like basically see how far I can just, like take this product. So one of the fears from the early days for Creative Flow was, what if Figma basically builds this natively as a feature within its ecosystem? And Figma conference is generally around midsummer, kind of June or July, and they announced features then. And so it was only like, I think 4 months until, like Figma conference. And I was not sure, okay, like, is this like, like at the time that we're going to like hear, like the big news and we're not going to be relevant anymore. So in order to kind of like basically reduce the risk of it, I basically asked around a few kind of, like companies that I thought, okay, this could be a good, like addition to a few of these companies. Are you willing to maybe partner with us or even acquire us? Like if you're, like um, are kind of like interested, and even like listed on, like kind of a marketplace, acquire.com actually, which was kind of, like a spin-off from the early micro acquire that I talked about. And it was not like something that I really wanted to do because I thought, okay, look, they're not going to buy it for a good price. They're not going to buy it for a good multiple. Normally plugins are less valued as, like kind of, compared to um, at a website that you also have the authority over the domain. So I didn't have really high hopes for like it's this or that, and like basically a few people that reached out initially too, they were really lowballing, like kind of like giving offers, and one of them which had like relatively good offer, like they really wanted me to be part of this too for 3 years, so I had to become the employee of the same company, and yeah. So, sorry, I'm just talking for, like so long. Like, do you
No
have
worries.
any?
That's all the details that I wanted to ask you like later on, and it's nice that you're bringing it up. So yeah, can continue.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So, but yeah, all of a sudden, actually, like I received, like, I received, like two good offers, which was kind of like, pretty great. And one of the things that really helped, like, receiving good offers from Creative Flow was like the revenue started really, like in, I think after April started like going up again, like, so it was kind of like, just like plateauing around, like 10 to 12 to 13, and then really started like, just like pouring up. And this was because of, like the focus went back into one product and we were just like trying to basically reduce the churn and everything there. So yeah, and then I got like a couple of very good offers, and like basically I started talking to them. By the way, hats off to Acquire.com team. They're pretty amazing. They really are. For companies that are selling their products over a certain threshold of volume, they actually like have this other kind of white glove, like program that they really, like help you, like with advisory and everything else. They're really helpful. And yeah, and I really didn't think, I didn't even know like how to verify if this is even real because, like it's kind of like a bigger price and everything. So, yeah. And actually like ended up, like said, okay, I will sign this LOI. Why not? Just let's do the due diligence, see what happens. And luckily for me, like I kind of learned a lot from, like talking to this, like doing this process with this person because, um, he was part of a private equity kind of like firm in the US. Um, I guess he wants to kind of like, he saw the numbers. I was very transparent with everything and he really liked the potential. And he actually like talked with Figma representatives and just basically realized, okay, this is not something that they're focusing on. For me, it was something that actually like pushed me to kind of like post it for acquisition because I thought that they might build it, but he was able to actually like ask them and they said this is not their focus this year or maybe even next year. So yeah, so but he has done it a few more times before. So his process was so thorough that I learned a lot from how to do it myself if I want to acquire business myself, like with all these, like due diligence. It was not his first rodeo. So you could tell that, like he had a system, he had a structure in place and everything. So we did all of that and we did like, just like technical due diligence. And for me, one of the things that I really liked about him was actually like, he was going after, like partnering up with like, just tech partners to help him. And the person he found was also like a great guy to kind of like, just take over this product too, like, um, right now he was able to, like solve some of the core bugs and just build very many new features. And I think, I'm really kind of bullish on the kind of future of this plugin under, his leadership and his, reign. So overall, it was actually like a pretty good deal for me. Not only I was able to recover all the losses that I had before, it was also like you just like a moment of, breathing and just making, it was a very, very good outcome. And I'm also like kind of like involved with it still kind of on a very minimal basis. Kind of, I'm still earning a monthly earnout from the deal on top of, like the initial kind of, sum. And yeah, I'm actually like pretty happy with how things turn out with Creative Flow. I'm still following the journey, by the way. I'm kind of like, it's hard not to because it's kind of your baby to some degree still. But yeah, I'm still like, I'm very much, hopeful over the future of this. And I think it's going to be something great.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, I can bet that like because you went through this process one time of like selling and getting your product acquired, you now have a lot more knowledge about this, and hopefully in your next endeavors, the process would be even more smooth for you. Um, so I've noticed that like you are also right now you've put up in your X bio you have this ship plugin or something like that, which is basically I think a boilerplate for Figma plugins. So uh, just like I'm curious, like what in Figma made you so interested? Because like you've obviously have had all these success cases with Figma. So what's so interesting about Figma to you? And yeah.
Yeah, I think first of all, Figma has it's a growing company, and it's a company that I admire. Like they have a great product, they have a great community, and yeah, they've been very supportive. If you ask a question in their Discord, somebody will answer to you. Like very shortly after. Like if max a few hours, and they really try to kind of nurture that developer. Like ecosystem and DevRel and all of that. And I was even like for one of like the products I built, they actually like awarded the creator fund from Figma. So actually like I have this kind of, like some sort of kind of partnership with them that they actually like help, they want to help the developers, so I got a free ticket to their Figma conference next year because of that. So yeah, it's a great community. They're very helpful, and like also like their plugin ecosystem, I think is under tapped. So like um, a lot of like products are started and originated from design, and Figma is a big part of design. So like basically, if you can, like build something as an indie hacker, I think, or as any developer you want to build something, I think you should really look into Figma plugins because it can really, first of all, give you a distribution channel out of the box, which is why a lot of products fail in the first place. They don't have a distribution channel that you build, and then you have to work, like for months on the SEO and, keywords and basically posting on product content, multiple like places you need to launch to kind of create some sort of distribution channel. But if you can actually like leverage an already built directory, it already puts you, like so far ahead. So I really recommend, like developers and indie hackers to look into Figma. And you mentioned that framework I built is because the first, like months or 2 months of, starting out, you would, we actually lost, some time, I think, to just build the kind of like, basically a structure for a product that you need to basically leverage to build a feature. So I thought, like might as well offer it to people so that you don't need to start from zero. You can start from, you already have the payment in place. You have, like kind of, like Next.js. You don't have to kind of deal with all those, like webhooks and, post messages, so it's actually like a structure that helps you build something, and you can just download that and basically start today and build the feature. And you already know what to build because people will tell you what to build. You just need to go to the share ideas, page, and people ask for, different things. So yeah, and it was a cool domain, ship plugging. IN being the kind of, like shipplug.in, so ship plugging. So if you actually like are curious, check it out, and I would recommend people checking it out.
Yeah, it's interesting. The other day I saw this tweet from, I think, a very popular indie hacker. It seems like Framer also, uh, they've set up their own like plugin system, and you can create a plugin, and they have a distribution, like a plugin store. Um, yeah, I guess that is also a place where like indie hackers can take a look at. Although probably the distribution in Figma would be like better and stronger because it's been, I guess it has more traffic. Um, but yeah, it's also a good place for others to look at.
Yeah, for sure. I really like Framer too. I think as a developer, you have to almost, like put a bet on a on a platform. For example, early iOS developers who built apps for iOS, they really, like made good money, back then, because, like obviously iOS became this huge thing, like Shopify too, like there are unicorn kind of companies building, like Shopify plugins. People don't know that, but plugins can become extremely successful, like so. Um, and like so don't kind of like, just underestimate how much a plugin can grow. And as you said, Framer, I really like the team behind Framer. They're very smart people, and the product itself is fantastic. So yeah, as a developer, you just need to, like trust and put your bet on one of these platforms if you want to build a plugin. Like I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah. It But there's also like this feeling that I guess it's a double-edged sword, because on one hand you have the distribution, on the other hand you have this feeling of not knowing if the platform is going to offer that functionality, and and that will make your plugin obsolete, exactly like the fear that you had. Um, so I guess you're right. It's a bet, uh, and yeah, you just have to see it on a case by case basis.
Yeah, for sure. It's a risk, but like building your own thing would be risky too. Like it's not that there's a less risky, like path. So, but if you build, like good products, if you are good at, like basically user acquisition, and like if you have a good customer service, and you really listen to your users, like you have that, like you build those relationships, and like you can always, like see where that can go. So uh, I wouldn't focus too much on what can go wrong in the early days, because um, basically building a product that you can actually like make profitable is what matters. Like the risks and the worries, I'd say, like you need to be a bit more optimistic, as a founder. You need to be way more optimistic.
I agree. Um, how do you do, so aside from, oh, I mean, I guess I had this question from you that how do you do marketing? Because I'm not sure, but I think one channel that you use is your X account. But also, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, because I haven't seen you doing too much marketing like some other indie hackers, I can now kind of feel like, oh, that's probably because the distribution channel was already there. But if do you have like any marketing tips for maybe people that their ideas are not like, they're not like Figma or Framer plugins, they have to do the marketing themselves. So do you have any tips or experiences with that?
Um, if you have a big enough audience, say like 100,000, like I don't know, followers on X or whatever, you can basically use that, like as kind of, maybe some of them are actual users that for whatever you're building. You even can even test something with them. For example, products like Tweet Hunter. There's some Twitter native, like products that are actually like if you have Twitter followers, X followers, you can actually sell them. sell it to them. Um, but yeah, in this case, like, well, I didn't have, that many followers. And for a lot of people, you have to go to people. People will not come to you. So you actually like have to find the directories where they hang out, what is the right Slack, what is the right Reddit forum, where is the right meetup? Sometimes there's kind of in-person meetups, and you just have to kind of, basically guess who's your ideal customer profile, like and is this, like a designer, developer, a marketer, a realtor, like find out what it is and find out where these guys hang out, like, so try to kind of go to that. And I mostly use it for fun, like X and LinkedIn and all that, a lot of places. Kind of sometimes I use them professionally, kind of LinkedIn more professionally than X. And but yeah, if I actually like one day I have the kind of like the luxury of having many followers, I can definitely use that as like a kind of sort of like lead like generation and try to basically sell it to them. But I don't have that many followers, so I cannot
Mhm.
really use that.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Um, what is so your LinkedIn says you're in stealth mode. So you're, I think, working on something new. Um, is there anything that you want to share? Share us that like what you're working on. Like, what's your next move?
Yeah, for sure. So I already launched 4 products that like like 3 of them fail, and one of them actually like is the sheet plugin that I mentioned. Um, one of the other products that I will talk about was actually like I stopped working on that, was kind of like generative, like AI for design. It was like looking into, like leveraging, like generative AI to build data structures for design and newsletters specifically because it had, like lesser barriers. But the more actually like I started, like talking to users and the more actually like I started building this, I realized, okay, I don't know quite the kind of realm of this world. And also like basically this didn't seem quite an urgent need for people. So I kind of like stopped working on that. Right now I'm working on 2 other products that on top of like basically doing some contract work to make ends meet. And both of them are kind of in the AI world, um, but it's more kind of, like specific for businesses. But I will share more about this. I actually don't like to be in stealth mode, honestly, but because I kind of like try to have this framework, I launch and test and stop, launch and test and stop. I thought instead of, putting all the names of everything that fails, kind of like wait for something to kind of kick off a little bit before I kind of start talking about it more
Mhm.
public.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's kind of like this feeling that you want to share what you're doing, and but you kind of haven't gotten into a place where it's relevant. Um, w- so what process do you? What's your process of like you're done with your project and then you want to work on the next one? How do you get the idea? So people say, scratch your own itch. Um, what if you don't have an itch? Or I guess, you mentioned that you figured out about like the inspiration for Creative Flow was the Figma idea board. Um, so, but in general, I guess like, what do you do? What's your process?
Yeah, I actually I'm the same at boat as you. Like it's great if you have the problem because the customer interviews and user discovery takes a long time. Like and in order to do it right, it takes like a good chunk of time. So if it's your own itch, you can scratch. It's perfect. You're saving so much time. So one of the things that I do, I network with people. I try to kind of like reach out to, like my LinkedIn requests, LinkedIn connections, like past colleagues from different departments, even, like co-founder networks. And I tell you from everything about, like how things with a co-founder can go wrong, but it's kind of comes down to how you structure your relationship. And if you can do it right, like, maybe the person can bring, the domain knowledge over something else, maybe, like your dynamic will spark, some magic. So I would say, like networking is really helpful. Try to be really curious about, like connections that you already have, like talk to, people from the sales department, talk to, like small business owners, like talk to, people that you actually can meet. I guess after COVID, people don't even go out as much. You're a bit, in your homes and everything, but you can still, I don't know, have an online, chat with people, and um, kind of see what comes, like what kind of conversation you have, and if something kind of piques your curiosity, try to find more people like them and see if they have the same problem. And when I say problem, mm, I think it's wrong to frame it as a problem. It's more of, like if they have the same user story, if they're like kind of like just their journey looks similar. And again, like you need to be a bit of a detective, like try to basically be genuinely interested in people's lives, in processes in place, and don't even, like offer any solutions. Just try to learn, like first of all, it's good, like you catch up with people that people that you actually like maybe didn't even talk, like as much before, and you might give you some, like interesting ideas. And a lot of good ideas happen when you work on some other ideas, like you build something, you talk with people, and they tell you something, and actually like changes into something else. So I think networking is really, really helpful.
Mhm. Yeah, good point. I mean, I've personally, I'm still not like I still don't quite get the networking events. It's like you go somewhere and then like people are like standing next to each other and then just like they spark like these random conversations. It's a bit awkward for me. I don't know how others feel. Um, but yeah, I guess there's some value in that. I guess the caveat is that I see like so many people in networking events, and I kind of feel like they shouldn't be there. They must just build the best product that they can instead of like they're looking for people to connect with, but they don't really need one at the moment. They just need to make their
Yeah.
products better. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 100%. And I'll tell you one thing, like the networking that matters for user discovery is very different than the social networking or tech networking. So what you need to do is almost go on a date with people, like be very, very curious about one person's life. And it doesn't matter if you only talk with one person, maybe that's just enough conversation for the night, like um, don't focus on, it's not like a leaderboard. I talked with 15 people, like I was laughing all night, like I had 5 drinks, it's not about that. Just, you need to basically have, like some very deep, meaningful conversations with people, like, and the more you do it, like, the better you become at it.
Yeah, yeah, that makes more sense to me. Um, Last thing I wanted to talk is a bit about co-founder dynamics, and I guess we talked about this offline a couple months ago, but you mentioned that you really encourage having a co-founder. Um, what are your thoughts on that? And also just like you said, if you were to work on a product again, if you're gonna have a co-founder, you will be more um strict about the structure and all of that. So can you share a bit more insight on this?
I think it's like kind of, like a, a marriage, like and it looks more like it than you think. Um, because you can do it by yourself as a solopreneur, like, but it's a very hard journey, and you have to like basically do it, like, you have to do a lot of things, and some of the things you like, some of the things you don't like, and it has lots of ups and downs, and you could also go through life alone as a single person too, or you could decide to be in a relationship, like, um, and the structure that I said is, like, if it's a privilege to have somebody, like, work with you, like it's a privilege to have a co-founder. And no matter what happened between, me, like the good ones, the bad ones, like I'm so grateful for the experience, there's still something fantastic that I don't think, like by yourself, you would have achieved that sometimes, like you have to put things into perspective. So yeah, and like similar to kind of like dating too, like if you just, like openly dating, like and basically if you don't have any structure to that, it might not, like you might not find, like somebody you can actually like build a life with. So same thing for co-founders. You need to kind of, like start, like um kind of, like making sure that you're enjoying your time together and just like have a good structure, have an agreement in place before, like starting working together. And I think, like I definitely think the networking and, like the spark between people, like their experiences, their point of view. Maybe one of you is more senior than the other one. Maybe it's a different, like kind of, like skill set. It can create some magic, like in terms of, like, what you work on. Some people are, like very much, they have the discipline, they have the drive, they have the whatever, kind of the structure to do everything by themselves. And those are normal people who have done it, many times before, like they just know what needs to be done, and they actually have the connections to raise funds, have the connections to kind of do a lot of things, and they hire people, they actually like, they kind of fill the gaps by employees that they don't have. But I mean, it's a privilege. I think like if you can, like, kind of, like work with someone, and if you both are a great match, then I think why not? Like it adds more than it actually removes. So I kind of encourage doing that.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Um, yeah, man, I've enjoyed this conversation so much. So many valuable things. Where should people go if they wanna stay up to date with what you're doing and your endeavors?
Um, Look me up on LinkedIn. I think all of my social media has the same. It's like Soheil, but it has number one before the L. So all of my social media is like that. So you can actually like find me easily on like all LinkedIn, like X, everywhere else.
Cool. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming to the pod.
Well, thanks for having me.
Sure. Goodbye.